Okay, in this lesson, we're going to be talking about an arithmetic sequence, a special type of sequence. So let's go ahead and define what we mean by an arithmetic sequence. A sequence in which the difference between any two terms is constant. Now, I want to go ahead and share with you, I work these problems differently than most books do. Let's go back and let's look at what I'm saying again is an arithmetic sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, 7, 9, 11. Now this should look familiar. Back when we talked about x's and y's, if you were to graph this 1, 5, 2, 7, 3, 9, and 4, 11, I want you to put in parentheses out here, and I want you to remember that this is a linear sequence. So that's the way I work it. I work it as a linear sequence, not necessarily the method that they're going to show you here. I'm going to show you both, and you pick the method you like best. Now, next up, a common difference. It is the numerical difference between two terms, and they use the variable d in their formula. I'm going to call it something else. I'm going to call it slope, because that's exactly what it is. If you were to look, the common difference here, add 2, add 2, add 2 in this sequence. Well, what is that common difference? It is a slope. If you were to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, it's the same thing as slope. So now, for the next examples, and then we'll get to what I'm talking about. Direction says determine whether the sequence is arithmetic. If yes, identify the common difference and give the next three terms. So am I adding the same amount each time? Plus 3, plus 3, plus 3, yes. This is arithmetic, so we're going to put yes. The next three terms, add 3 more, and add 3 more. That's what you would get. Here, you're going down 7, down 7. Here, down 7 again, down 7 again. Yes, and I didn't do my common difference here. The difference was a positive 3. Yes, this one's arithmetic, and the difference is going to be a negative 7. Make sure you tell if it's going down or up. And the next three terms in this sequence go down 7 again, down 7 again, and down 7 again. There's your next three terms. Number 3, you're adding 1, you add 1, then you add 2. So we can just stop and say no. This is not arithmetic because it's not a constant. It must be constant. Here we go down 2 again, down 2 again, and down 2 again. So yes, the common difference would be negative 2, and this is an arithmetic sequence. Next three terms would be negative 16, negative 18, and negative 20. Number 5, we went down 10, or excuse me, we went up 10, then we went up 5, so we can stop there. So it's not a constant common difference. Here you're going to go up 12 again, up 12, up 12. So yes, there's a common difference of a positive 12, not positive or negative, a positive 12. So it is arithmetic. And the next three terms, we're going up 12 would be 25, 37, and 49. Okay, now here's the formula that they use. Arithmetic sequence formula. The nth term of any arithmetic sequence can be found by using this formula. A sub n is equal to d times n minus 1 plus a sub 1. Now, I like using a different formula. I like using the formula y equals m times, well, let's do it like this. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1, point slope. Because again, this is a linear formula. So what we're going to have to do now later on, our y, we're going to replace with an a sub n. Our m is actually our d. It's the same thing. I told you the common difference is a slope. And instead of using x, they use n. That's fine. It's the same thing. It's just using different variables. Where in their formula, the a sub 1 is the first term, and d is the common difference. Now, their method is easy, but the problem is you've got to remember a new formula. So that's the reason I like the y minus y1 equals m times x. It's point slope formula. You've already memorized it. So we will show you their way. A sub n is equal to d times n minus 1 plus a sub of 1. So it says on these problems, write a rule for the sequence, then find the indicated terms. So -5, -1, 3, 7. First off, let's find our common difference. That's what you're adding or subtracting. This is going up 4, up 4, up 4. So this is a positive 4 for a common difference. Let's find our a sub 1. It's right there. It's the first term. So their formula would be a sub n is equal to the common difference times n minus 1 plus the first term, which is -5. Clean it up. That's going to be 4n minus 4 plus a -5. I'm just going to put minus 5. It looks better. So a sub n is equal to 4n minus 9. There is their formula. Now, what is the 24th term? To find the 24th term, we now simply plug in 24 for n. 4 times 24 is 96. Minus 9 gives me 87. So there's my two answers. Let's do one more with their formula, and then we'll go back and we'll rework these with mine. A sub n is equal to d times n minus 1 plus the first term. We're going down 9, down 9, down 9, down 9. So since we're going down 9, the common difference will be a -9. So my formula, a sub n is equal to -9 times n minus 1 plus your first term. That would be -9n plus 9 plus 20. So a sub n would equal -9n plus 29. And that 9 looked rough. So there's your formula. So the 15th term, a sub 15, would be -9 times 15, which is -135, plus 29, which would be -106. Okay, I'm going to go back and rework these first two problems, and I'm just writing it like this. You don't have to, just to show you that this is a linear relationship. If you were to plot these points, 1, -5, 2, -1, and so on and so forth, you get a line. And let's find the equation of this line. And let's use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 to find this equation. First off, let's find a slope. And I want to show you, now a while ago we said the common difference on this problem was a +4. Find the slope. The way that you find slope, and you're not going to have to do this on every problem, but you're going to take any 2 points. I'm going to take these two, and I'm going to do y2 minus y1, which would be -1 minus -5 over x2 minus x1. Minus minus is a plus, gives you a 4 over 1. Guess what? The same as the common difference. So without even doing my slope formula, how can I find slope? I simply look at this and I find my common difference. So I take out the m and I put in my slope. Now I simply need a point because I'm going to use that point to find my y-intercept. So the point that I'm going to use, you can use any of them. I'm going to use 1, -5 just because it's simpler. So I now have y minus -5 equals 4 parentheses x minus 1. And I'm even going to show you a shortcut on how to find this. Y plus 5 equals 4x minus 4. Move the 5 over, it gives you y equals 4x minus 9. And if you'll look, a while ago, the answer that you got was a sub n is equal to 4n minus 9. So if you want to replace the y with a sub n, the x with n, there's your formula. It's the exact same thing. But I want to focus in. We'll talk more about it in just a second. My y-intercept there ended up being -9. Let's work one more problem, and then we'll go back and revisit that. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now, you do need to remember these are points. My first point is 120, 211, 32, 4, -7. There's an x value that goes with these y values, and those are the term numbers. So first off, my slope, I'm going down 9, so my common difference was a -9, so my slope is a -9. The point that I'm going to use is right here. I'm going to use 120, so we're going to do y minus 20 equals -9 times x minus 1. Distributive property, y minus 20 equals -9x plus 9. Move the 20 over by adding. You get y equals -9x plus 29. And that's the same answer you got, except for we're going to write it in sequence notation. A sub n is equal to -9n plus 29. Same answer. However, let's talk about this y-intercept again. How do you find a y-intercept? To find a y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x. Wait a minute. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I can find a y-intercept very easily. Watch this. Again, this is my first term, second term, third term, fourth term. I need a y-intercept. I've already got my slope. So how can I find a y-intercept really easy? Well, if this is the first term, second term, third term, if I could somehow plug 0 in, wait a minute, you can. Go back a term. What if there was another term before this one? Okay, to go this direction, you're adding 4, add 4, add 4. Well, how would you go backwards? One term, do the opposite, subtract 4. What would you get? -9. What about this one? To get each term in the sequence, you subtract a 9, subtract 9, subtract 9. Well, to go backwards one, let's add 9. What would you get? 29, the y-intercept. So now look how easy this is. Here, your slope, you're going down 3, down 3, down 3. So therefore, your slope or your common difference, you can put it as m or d, is a -3. Well, what's your y-intercept? Well, if you were to go back another term, you would get a -3. Okay, so that's going to be your y-intercept. That's all you have to do. So your linear equation would be y equals mx plus b. Y equals -3x minus 3. Now that you have slope and you have y-intercept, you have your equation. So your formula here would be a sub n is equal to -3n minus 3. You don't have to do all that other work. And your 38th term, a sub 38 would be -3 times 38 minus 3, which gives you -117. Let's try the shortcut again. What is your common difference? From 8 to 9.5, you're going up 1.5, go up 1.5, go up 1.5. So your common difference or your slope is 1.5, a positive 1.5. Okay, your y-intercept. In order to find your y-intercept, go backwards a term. So instead of adding 1.5, subtract 1.5, again, because it would be your 0th term. 0 comma, if there was one, and that would be 6.5. That's a y-intercept. So therefore, your y-intercept is positive 6.5. So instead of writing this as y equals mx plus b, let's write it as a sub n equals m, and instead of x, put n plus b, which is 6.5. There's your formula. So the 48th term in the sequence, a of 48, let's do 1.5 times 48, add 6.5 to it, and you get 78.5. Okay, next part says, if the given terms are part of an arithmetic sequence, as soon as you see this, again, guys, linear, think linear. Write a rule for the sequence and then find a sub 12. My method is going to be so much easier here because look, your first term is 3, your third term is -7. That's 2 points. You don't have to go through all the stuff that they're going to want you to work through here. So what do I do first? I need a slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's -10 over 2, which is -5. What is that? That's your common difference. If you check that, look, my first term is 3. If I go down 5, if I go down 5 again, I go down 5 again, I go down 5 again, do I get the third term as -7? I sure do. So your common difference or your rate of change, your slope, is -5. If this were my sequence, then if I were to go back one to find my y-intercept, it would be an 8 if you were to add 5. So your formula is going to be a sub n equals -5n plus 8. There is there's your explicit formula. Then it says in the directions, then find a sub 12. And a sub 12, the 12th term of this sequence would be -5 times 12 is -60 plus 8, which is -52. First term is -17. The 24th term, this would take forever. But just know that the input is 1, the output is -17. That's a point. The 24th term would be 6. Let's find a slope or a common difference since we're talking about explicit formulas here. y2 minus y1 over Let's see, 6 minus negative 17 over 24 minus 1. That gives me 23 over 23, which is a common difference of 1. So what are you doing? You're counting up 1 each time is all you're doing here. If your first term is negative 17, what would that 0 term be? Well, subtract 1. Since you're adding 1 each time to get to here, to go backwards 1, let's subtract 1. That'd be negative 18. So therefore, my formula would be y equals m times x plus b. Y equals mx plus b, or in this case, y equals, or a sub n equals 1n minus 18. There's your formula. So therefore, what term are we finding? The 12th term, a sub 12 would be 12 minus 18, which is negative 6. Next up, what are we asked to do? Arithmetic series. Recall that a series is the sum of a sequence. When finding the sum of an arithmetic sequence, we're going to use the following formula. S of n, and that's a partial sum, is equal to n times a1 plus a sub n divided by 2. There's your formula, where n is the number of terms, a sub 1 is the first term, and a sub n is the last term. And luckily, again, I have an easier method of doing this. When it's linear, when it's arithmetic, and I've already showed you what that method is. Find the indicated sum for each arithmetic series. So what we're doing here is we're asked to find the sum of the first 10. I'm going to show you their method, which again is not hard. And then I'm going to show you mine. So here is the formula. S of n is equal to n times a sub 1 plus a sub, and let's replace this. Since we're finding s of 10, let's replace our n's with 10s. So we're finding the sum of the first 10, so there's what we've got. So s of 10 will be 10 times the first term plus the 10th term. Now we've got to somehow find the 10th term here. Now that on this one it's going to be easy. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Each term is just two times whatever term number it is. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4. 2 times 10, the 10th term will be 20. So therefore, there's your formula. So we've got inside of here 22 divided by 2, that's 10 times 11, which is 110. Let me show you the other method, which actually I've already showed you. Here's the sum, or here's your arithmetic sequence. 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way up to 20. So there's your sequence. Now, if you have an arithmetic sequence, guess what you can do? You can group your terms. If you group those two terms together, you get 22. If you group these two together, you get 22. Group these two together, you get 22. Well, now here's the hard part. How many groups would you have? How many numbers do you have? There are 10 terms there. So therefore, if I group them into groups of 2, there will be 5 groups. Each of those groups will add up to whatever this added up to. You're going to take your first term and your last term, see what they add up to, then take your see how many terms you have, half it to split them into groups, and you're going to say, I have 5 groups, and those 5 groups all add up to 22. 5 times 22 gives you the 110. So we'll use that method. You can use their formula if you would like to, or that's just another formula you're going to have to memorize. Okay, so here, negative 6 plus negative 19 plus negative 32. Now, we've got to figure out what we're adding together the first 8 terms. So we're going down 13 each time. So I'm just going to list these. Let me space them out a little bit more and list them all. So there's the first 8 terms. Now, since it was such a small number, I didn't mind listing them. I will show you another method. What if I don't want to list them all out? What if I just want to know, boom, what's my 8th term? I'll show you how to do that in a second. As long as it's arithmetic, again, we're going to group our first term and our last term. We're going to see what the sum is. If I add negative 6 and negative 97, I get negative 103. So what I now know is I've got groups that are going to add up to that. Well, how many groups are there? Well, there's 8 terms, because that's what I'm trying to find is the sum of the first 8. So therefore, take these 8 numbers and put them into groups of 2. So therefore, there's going to be 4 groups. How do I know that? 8 divided by 2. So I know that I'm going to have 4 groups, one here, one here. I don't have to do this every time, but one here and one here. There's my 4 groups. All those groups add up to negative 103. So 4 negative 103s gives me negative 412 is going to be my sum. Now the next question was, how could I have known what my 8th term was without just listing it? Okay, go back to your slope formula or point slope formula, which if you haven't noticed yet, is pretty much, guys, it is that formula that they gave you. Except for they took this minus y1 and they moved it over here and did plus y1. Okay, it's the exact same formula. It's just different letters. So again, it's just one less formula to memorize. Okay, so what are my x's and what are my y's? My x's are the term numbers, the inputs and outputs. My x's was my number of the term, and my y's was the actual term itself. So if I want to know what is my 8th term, well, I know my first term, and you can use this with any term. I know my first term is negative 6, and I need to know my 8th term is question mark. I know my common difference, which is my slope, in this case, is, let's say I'm going down 13 each time, so negative 13. We'll just plug all that in. I'm looking for I'm going to let it be my y here. I'm looking for my 8th term minus my negative 6 is let's plug in everything. The point that I'm going to plug in is a 1, negative 6. My first term was negative 6. My slope is negative 13. So plug in everything you know. Oop, not there. My x1, that had been my 8th term. No, my first term. There we go. So let me show you what all I plugged in. My first term was negative 6. So I plugged in a 1 here and a negative 6 here. My slope was negative 13. So now what else do I plug in? I'm looking for my 8th term. So you could actually plug an 8 in there and just solve that. Minus minuses are pluses. So I now have y plus 6 equals negative 13 times 7. Y plus 6 is equal to negative 91. Subtract the 6, and you get y equals negative 97. That was your 8th term. Next up, number 15. Now, these are so much easier because you don't have to go through that trouble. These are arithmetic, and you can check it by plugging them in. I'm just going to plug in 2 or 3 just to show you. Plug in 1 gives you 6 minus 4 is 2. Plus. Plug in 2 gives you 12 minus 4 is 8, plus. Plug in 3 gives you 18 minus 4, which is 14, plus. Dot, dot, dot. So look, I'm going up 6. I went up 6 again. That's arithmetic. To where, look, common difference, slope, same thing. Go ahead and plug in your last number. 72 minus 4 gives you 68. Why did I do that? It's because I want to see what my first term and my last term add up to. Then I'm going to group them. Since I have 12 things, all the values from 1 to 12 that I plugged in, since I have 12 things that I plugged in, when I group them, take that number and split it in half, and that tells you how many groups you have. So I have 6 groups of 70. So these numbers are going to add up to 420 very quickly. Next one, I'm going to plug in all the numbers from 8 up to 17. Now, you got to be careful with this about how many groups you're going to have. Plug in 8 gives you negative 16 plus 3. That's negative 13. Plus, plug in 9 gives you negative 18 plus 3, which is negative 15. Now, you don't have to plug in any more except for the last one, but I'm just showing you again. If you plug in 10, gives you negative 20 plus 3, which is negative 17. Do you see that you're going down 2 each time? This is why. That's your common difference or your slope. When you plug in 17, though, it gives you negative 34 plus 3, which is a negative 31. So take your first term and your last term. Whoops. They add up to negative 44. So all of my groups are going to add up to negative 44. Now, how do I figure out how many groups I have? I've got to plug in all the numbers from 8 up to 17. If you actually count it, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, you don't get what you think. A lot of people think, oh, that's 9 numbers. but it's not. When you do 17 minus 8, yes, you get 9, but unfortunately, when you do that, you didn't count the number 8. So you got to do 17 minus 8 is 9, and then one more. That's 10. I plugged in 10 numbers. So therefore, I will have 5 groups that add up to negative 44. That's negative 220 is your total.